Welcome back to the 3F podcast. As always, your host, Timothy Clayton Cornell. Today, we have on recurring guest Trey Triplette with Huckle and 3 Natural Bionutrition. And also new guest, Ty Elkins. How's it going, guys?
How's it going,
Good, man? How you guys doing?
So I'm doing good. Sorry, we've had a little bit of delay. We've had a bunch of stuff come up. So I know with our third episode with the Huckle Ty, I know everyone is excited for that. We are going to dive into NIL today. So before we really dive into it, Ty, why don't you give us a little bit of an intro?
Hey guys, my name is Ty Elkins. I am a Huckle Ambassador. Play rugby with TJ. Play rugby. Play a little for the U.S. Play a little in London. Play pretty much all over the U.S. And now I'm kind of back in the States and just looking to get the game running here.
So we got a good panel, like Ty said. You know, he's our lead ambassador. He's been a professional rugby player. We've got our director of athlete development with Huckle and owner of 3 Natural. So before we get anywhere, I don't have my Zevia with me, but does anyone have anything special to drink besides water today?
No, I just got regular old water, man.
Regular old water?
Same, man, same. I took about 2 weeks off to let my body reset, so it's going to be straight water for a long time now.
Gotcha. Well, I got to ask Trey, is there any changes on trying to get Zevia on Huckle platform? Have we got anywhere with that?
Man, we're still working on it, man. We're trying to get in touch with him and trying to get him on board. We're working on it, man.
I can't wait till I one day can say, like, in our official sponsor, Zevia. I'm dreaming of that day. So before we get into a little bit more, we've talked about Huckle in the last episode. If you guys haven't seen that, please check Spotify, check Anchor. Ty, what kind of gravitated you towards Huckle?
Originally, Garen talked about it a good bit. He's our coach, and once I kind of dug into it and did some research, just playing sports all my life and knowing what NIL is and having a understanding of what it is, and then diving deeper into Huckle and understanding what they're trying to do and what they are doing. It was like a gravitational pull. They're doing it the right way. I do feel that in the future, this is going to be the way the NIL deals are done. They do it the right way. They do it the clean way. The athletes never have to worry. And it's all about the athletes. So I was all in from day one.
Now, I have to ask, going in, let's give a quick overview. You know, Trey, Ty, what would be in your own words, what NIL stands for and why it's important to you guys?
For me, NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. That's the acronym. But what it is it gives athletes of all kinds of athletes from every different sport the opportunity to earn money based off, their name, image, and likeness, based off their appearance, off their platform, off their ability to compete on the field, and really leverage and extend their platform on the field into off the field opportunities to market and promote different products and services and companies and brands.
Now, whenever you guys were playing collegiate sports, I know, Trey, you went to LSU. There was nothing like this whenever you played sports, was there?
Nothing at all. I mean, you used to take an act of Congress just to get released from your school. And if you wanted to transfer schools, you had to sit out a year automatically. Mm-hmm. And then it was up to how you got out of that, commitment from the school. Some schools would put, different parameters on you to where, hey, you can't play in this conference. You got to go over here. You got to go over there. And so it's just totally different now. The portal opens up on December 5th, and it's going crazy right now. And so you've just got it's free agency. They have so much access and opportunity right now that it's good. I'm happy for them. I just wanted to maximize it and be able to use this point in time with all this freedom and access they have to really swing the pendulum in favor of the athlete.
Yeah, I know, obviously a big one, and I can't remember his name right now. I looked him up earlier. There was a famous football player going to college. He's gotten really big on YouTube, and he ended up losing his scholarship because at the time, NIL wasn't a thing, but they were stating he couldn't get paid because I guess the likeness of him being an athlete for the school was almost a conflict of interest with, I believe it was the NCAA. And I don't know if you guys have heard that story. I'm sure everyone has.
Yeah, that's actually, we were talking about that last week. It was either a kicker or punter from the University of Florida. I can't think of his name right now, but we were just talking about him last week. And what it was up until now, before NIL came into place, when you signed your letter of intent, you agreed to play for whatever school you play for your sport. You signed away all those rights, and so you couldn't do anything with him. You essentially gave him away, but that's changed now.
Yeah, I just found it as Donald De La Haye, ineligible by UCF over a YouTube channel just because of the likeness. I guess that's what it would fall under. If NIL had been a thing, he was not doing anything crazy. He was just posting videos on YouTube, and his YouTube page gained gravity. And because of that, he lost his opportunity to play professional football, lost his opportunity to continue going to school on scholarship, just things like that. That if NIL was around, he could have continued and even indirectly trying to get paid for his likeness.
Yeah, man, NIL's changed a lot. You got athletes back from probably when me and Trey were playing that, you got in trouble for if someone wanted to buy your jersey or your shirt, or if you signed something for somebody, you went to the barbershop and signed a card for your barber. Things like that would get you in serious trouble. And like Trey said, with the portal and the way the NIL is set up, back in the day, you could want to transfer home, to a school closer to home. But the powers that be or that coach could say, no, you got to transfer out of this conference. And there was really nothing you can do about it. You just had to go with it. NIL has done a lot of good things for athletes, because I know going to school, you literally, it was all from sun up to sundown. You had breakfast with the team, you had morning stretches or yogas, and then you had, morning workouts, class, afternoon workouts, class, practice, class, film, class, and then you had to figure out when you were going to fit homework, and there was no time for you to make any kind of money, really. And students up until now got in trouble for every little thing, like you said, that punter and that kicker and his podcast or his YouTube channel. Players, I remember back in the day, a lot of Florida State guys got in trouble after one bowl game for giving away their jerseys or signing jerseys for even family members, and NIL has changed that.
Now, I do have to ask, that barbershop, that is a very specific story. Did you get in trouble for signing something for your barber in college?
No. I remember, I think it was Florida and Florida State, I want to say, were in a bowl game in New Orleans. And I remember the athletes kind of got into it downtown, because those schools are already rivals. Like, it was already, pretty intense. And so some of the players got tattoos and went to the barbershop and things when they were down there. And guys were like, hey, can you sign this for me? And those athletes that, sign things for, barbers and tattoo artists got in trouble. And even if the tattoo artist was like, it would be an honor just to give you a tattoo, those players that didn't pay for those tattoos, if it was found out that they didn't pay for those things, they got in trouble for that kind of stuff, because it looked as if they were accepting, a monetary value of something of value, and they weren't allowed to, because, it was against the rules.
I can give you a more recent example that I think, if I recall correctly, Terrell Pryor at Ohio State lost his eligibility for a tattoo.
He did.
And that's crazy. Was it a free tattoo?
I believe he got it for free, yeah, and he lost his eligibility for that.
This is surprising, and I've never made this connection until now. That is very similar to something that even in the military we can't accept gifts or anything because of who we are, because we are military. There's actually a dollar amount that we can only accept up to. And if I believe it's something low, like maybe $20 or $50. So getting like a tattoo is someone was like, yeah, I really appreciate what you do. Let me give you a free 1 hour session. And their sessions are $75. We could get in trouble for that in the military. So the fact that, that's going both ways, that's something I would have never made the connection about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would think, I'm sorry to cut you off, Ty. I would think for the military, it has to do probably with more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Somebody not gaining leverage or control over you in terms of national security. I think that was more, is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, is like, we're not supposed to do that because we don't want to be like we're getting favors or exchanging information for favors. So there's almost a reason behind it. compared to an athlete someone who's just a big fan of them, or, maybe they're from the hometown and they just want to say thank you for getting our hometown on the map. I know like Lamar Jackson goes back home all the time to his, I think it's Orange County in Florida, does a lot of community stuff. So people might just be super appreciative for what they're doing for the city or for the county where they're from. But it's almost, you guys are held to the same standards as people who hold like national security secrets, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we talk about NIL. Is there different kinds of NIL, or is it all under like one same branch?
I see three different kinds, and there's really two, but then the two has a kind of a subcategory or subclass to it. You have one form of NIL, which is what Huckle is about, which is the collaboration between athletes and companies and brands to mutually profit. And then you have another NIL, which is called the collective aspect. And then on the collectives, you have two kinds of collectives. So the most frequent kind of collective, or what you see with a lot of these guys getting the big dollar deals, is coming from the collectives that are considered 501c3 charities, which means that all the money that goes into the collective is not taxed, and all the money that comes out is not taxed. So all the donations they get from different people go in there untaxed, then they go to the players untaxed. And so what you have is essentially these players are getting paid salaries and signing bonuses just for showing up, which is not a bad thing. But I think that when you look at different schools who have tried to do that, it's not working for them. They're losing not only games on the field, the locker room dynamics have been inconsistent. And then with the portal opening up, you see that these schools are leading with the number of portal entries. So it's not really working out for them. And then you have what the true sense of the collective is meant to be. A school like Florida Atlantic University has a collective, and they have a true collective. It's not a 501c3. It's not just a kind of a slush fund money account. It's actually a group of guys, different loose entities that are really linked up and really want to further the development of the student athlete as a whole, not only from a marketing standpoint, but as far as business education, networking, how to present yourself. There's a bunch of different things that go into that collective that, in the true sense of a collective, that is what it's supposed to be. But a lot of the times you hear these big dollar deals where kids getting $8 or $9 million. That's coming from just the 501c3 type, to where that money is not getting taxed in or out. If you ask me, I feel like the IRS is going to clamp down on that sooner or later. They're not going to. Everybody's getting their cut with the IRS, and at some point in time, they're going to want to get their cut. It's just a matter of when. I think they're just going to let the money pile up and let it stack up, and they're taking notes, and they're going to lay the hammer down us eventually and hurt everybody who's been engaging in it.
I mean, they always get their cut. It's only a matter of time.
They always get their cut.
Uncle Sam, government. I will not go too crazy, but what they said. So we talk about them getting their cut. You talk about, as I said, Florida Atlantic. They actually have something. They work with a network, and they work with the development of the student athletes. First off, we are a business channel. We are a business podcast. We talk about like the 3 F's. Let's look into the finance side. One, these athletes finally getting paid for their name, their image, their likeness, this sport they play, and this multi-billion-dollar industry of college sports. But you said like networking. I will say, over the past 3 years that I've been involved in business, talking to too many people, if anyone is looking at it, if they want to get involved with NIL, if they want to look at like maybe Florida Atlantic versus other schools, that networking side to take a step away from our Huckle points to the business side, networking is going to get you so far in life. You can be so skilled at labor, or you can be so skilled at a sport. If you don't know how to network, you are only going to get so far. Understanding how to work with people, work with businesses, see what's required of you, whether you're looking at like a marketing or a booster or anything like that, learning how to network and build those relationships is going to take you, you can't put a price tag on that skill. It's going to take you so far in life. So back to the Huckle side. We talk about, you said you see all these athletes getting these big dollar deals, even student athletes going with multi-millions. At Huckle, we look at the other 95% of athletes. You got your Tyreek Hill and people going to these big names, ambassadorships or sponsorships. We work with the local businesses. We work with the smaller companies wanting to build proper relationships. So how does working with NIL fit that Huckle other 95% athlete focus?
You want to take that and I'll follow up on it?
Yeah. So for me, I think that other 95%, like we talk about, when we say that, we're not talking about the baseball, the football, the basketball. Those guys are going to get theirs. Everybody knows those sports and what they do. The other 95%, there's so many other sports out there who don't get, the proper attention, that have the following and have the fan base, but just don't get that kind of, NIL support or people wanting to, sign them to NIL deals. I think what makes Huckle unique is these athletes, these other 95%, when they're on the Huckle, when you're on the Huckle platform, you're looking at these companies are looking at you. When it comes to other 95% in the Huckle platform, where I think the biggest difference is, and I think me and Trey may have talked about this before, you got some athletes out here promoting things, fast food, drinks, and stuff that these athletes aren't eating and drinking. These is just for the picture or the video for that moment. My biggest, thing with Huckle is that these companies and these athletes, they kind of pick each other. You pick a company that has the same goals and drives and ambitions as you, and vice versa. That company can look at you and say, hey, I may not want this guy, or I may not want this lady. But, you look down that list and you find an athlete and you look through their profile and you see that they have the same interests, loves, and things like that as you, the same common goals, the same things they want to see happen. And then you match, so that when you're promoting this company, when you're using your name, image, and likeness for this company, it comes off organic, because it is. It's not you eating some triple burger covered in grease and oil, and slamming a soda, trying to, convince other people that that's what you are, that's what you do, because they're paying you this big money. That's where I see the biggest difference between Huckle and a lot of these other companies.
And I want to follow up and just say that the underrepresented can be in all sports. They can be of all size schools.
Mm-hmm.
Give you example, there's some schools that are on the D1 level just don't have the resource within the department. Like I know several D1 programs, football, that don't have nutritionists. To think that we're in 2022 and that they don't have nutritionists is kind of really amazing to me.
Yeah.
But it is happening. So the resources just aren't there a lot of times. And so underrepresented goes past or in addition to just the three big sports of baseball, football, basketball, because you could be underrepresented in those sports as well, depending on what school you go to, your location, your region, the resource you have in the athletic department, but also just spans further in terms of all the different sports that we don't see on a Saturday night or, on a prime time, that have very, very dedicated kind of cult-like following of fan bases, and that have a large community of people that support them and go out and attend their games and follow them and keep track up with them, and will buy different things that to attach themselves to these programs and these athletes. And so we want to tap into all that, and as well as from the company side, it goes the same way. There's a lot of companies on the larger scale, mid-size and small tier companies that, for various reasons, can't access the sports marketing world, right? And so we want to be a conduit or a catalyst to where these different companies and brands of all sizes can come on the platform and pretty much have direct access to diverse range of athletes across the globe.
Yeah, and I do think it's a really cool point. I believe it was either a vegan or a vegetarian Netflix special or something that were talking about the Tennessee Titans and how one of the spouses of the players, just on the diet side and the nutritionist side, she found out like all the players, this elite level athletes, NFL players, linemen, linebackers, were all eating terrible food. And she was a vegetarian, so she started cooking the meals for the team. And this was like the year that they were the #1 defense. All the players said they were feeling better. And you're saying these D1 schools don't have nutritionists, which is it's insane. Like you said, we're in 2022, and even in like 2020 or 2019, we had NFL teams that didn't have dietary leaders or nutritionists on their staff, and it's insane to think about. And I do want to go back to what Ty was saying. You talk about guys and girls in the other 95%. We just saw for the first one of the first times a sold out rugby match on a non-World Cup stage, and it was the women's team. If I remember right, it was England's women's team, right, Ty?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we talk about accurate representation for both ambassadorships and in sports. We have women's rugby teams, we have women's soccer, we have all these sports that are selling out arenas, and these athletes aren't getting paid for either their likeness or in their sport individually. And that is something that for likeness and ambassadorships that Huckle can help bring people into to find these companies on every stage. And we just added beauty and pet services on top of all the other services such as nutrition, athletic coaching, and even the Huckle platform itself. So as we talked about all this, have we had any athletes on the Huckle platform that we're helping them with NIL currently?
Yeah, there's several college student athletes on the platform that are engaged in NIL opportunities. Just kind of take a step back further on the last thing we're talking about. In my opinion, the reason that certain organizations and teams don't have some of these resources is because they look at these athletes as commodities or assets, and they don't value them. And they know that, hey, we're only going to have you for a short window anyway, so why should we invest any additional time into you? We can easily replace you. There's an unlimited pipeline of guys that want to be here that we can go and get to. And so, hey, when you're done, we'll go find somebody else that's younger, cheaper, faster, stronger. And, that's what it is. So that's why I feel that they don't invest in the players in the way that they should, because they don't value the players. And the reason I'm saying this is because I want to make the point that Huckle is the opposite of that in terms of where we value the athlete, and we see that there's long-term potential for them to have additional opportunities to make additional income and better themselves off the field by doing what they're doing on the field. It all goes together. Just somebody needs to help them tap into that and say, hey, here's how you can do it. Here's a way to do it. Here's a platform to do it. And we want to be that.
Now, do we have college athletes? How does high school athletes work with NIL?
Ty can add on to this as well, but in certain states, NIL is allowed. I want to say it might be a third of the country right now. In California is one of those states. There's a couple other states that I can't think of offhand, but there's a few states to where high school and NIL is allowed. And mainly there's been some horror stories up at this point, more horror stories than successes because of the way that it's been handled, charging the players large fees, the 30-40%, on top of the tax bill you're going to get at the end of the year when you receive the money. But there's people that's involved in these deals and in these situations that don't have the athlete's best interest at heart. They're either have a loyalty to a team or school or program, or they have a loyalty to themselves or a company, and the athletes is left in the middle, is kind of being used. And so that's unfortunate. But with what we have set up at Huckle, we have the opportunity to change that.
No, I completely agree with Trey. Like you said, it's not everywhere yet as far as high school goes. But for every, great story you hear, like you said, there are some nightmares out there. These kids a lot of times don't have the right people in their corner, or they have people in their corner who, are in another school's corner who's trying to persuade them to go to this school or that school. And then you have that middleman, like Trey said, who's taking a massive percentage. But as a kid, think about you at 15. If somebody came to you and said, I'm going to pay you $2 million. All you got to do is drink this drink, take a couple pictures, and oh, by the way, so-and-so is going to take 40%. You stop listening at $2 million.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You stop listening at that point. Your eyes got big, you signed whatever it took to sign, and now
if you sign something.
And that's where you get hurt. You didn't sign something, and now you can't take that back. Whereas on the NIL side, they can take it back. If you don't do exactly what they want you to do, they can take it back. If you don't go to the school they want you to go to, they can take it back. Where Huckle is huge is we're actually on the athlete side. Like, we're not taking anything from you. When you see that opportunity, you and that company speak, and that's what y'all agree on. That's what you get. Nobody's saying, hey, you got to give us this percent, after the fact. No, you earned this. This is yours. This is your name, image, and likeness. You did the work that the company asked you to do, and now it's yours. It's athletes out there. Trey and I spoke about a receiver. I think he goes to Boston College, one of the best receivers in the nation. They offered him millions of dollars, and then told him he couldn't have it unless he transferred schools, and he wouldn't transfer. So now he's just without it. That's the ugly side of the NIL.
Yeah, you're. I feel like you're always going to find people in businesses that practice borderline immoral business practices when it comes to brand new things. When a law gets passed, and you're already going to have people who know all the loopholes early because they studied it and prepared for it. So you're going to see colleges and agents immediately taking advantage of these people. And I know I said this last week, but Huckle is here to help the small guys. We're small guys and gals. Sorry, I use that as a gender neutral term in my life, but the products, the community that we have, we're here to help the 95% and not help them by helping ourselves. It's helping them, and because we're helping them, Huckle comes out as a benefiting partner. And I mentioned earlier, with NIL becoming a thing, we're going to have these horror stories. We're going to have some bumps on the road, but college sports alone, not mentioning high school, not mentioning adult sports like what me and Ty play with, working with like the CGRU and the Carolina Storm or other travel teams with rugby. I know we've got many other athletes on there, but NCAA alone is a $20 billion industry, or college sports is a $20 billion industry. And we're finally letting the athletes overcome that. I think they called it the principle of amateurism is why they weren't getting paid. So overturning that in NIL and finally being able to get into that, we're finally getting something for us. And I do also want to say there's somebody else that takes 40%. Rewind the episode and you'll find out who it is. But we talked to move forward just a little bit. We talked about the drawback. We have some of these athletes, they hear $2 million and the agent's going to take 40%, but they heard $2 million. That you're going to get paid multiple millions if you go to Boston College, but you have to transfer. Things like that. Is there any other drawbacks that you know of with NIL as it stands now?
The single biggest thing that we're hearing and that we're seeing is that athletes are not getting paid for the work they're doing, right? And so, athletes are easily exploitable because, and you got to be honest, athletes spend a lot of our time working out our bodies. We don't spend that same amount of time working out our minds in terms of working out how finance works and contract law and sports law. And a lot of us just don't have that exposure to even understand or grasp it and kind of really utilize it the way that we need to benefit ourselves. And so you got to understand, like, even if you're getting $2 million, nobody's going to pay the $2 million all at once. It's going to be in installments, right? Yeah. So you're going to have to meet certain barriers along the way to get that next installment of payment. If you don't make it, then the whole deal could collapse. So the different things, they'll put different things like that in there to prevent from having to pay you, right? And so it may be, they spread that $1 million over 3 years. Say you get hurt or you transfer, that deal may become in a jeopardy, right? Say you don't, do certain things, the deal may not be seen through to the end. And so it's unfortunate. It's almost like a continuation of the same thing that we've been seeing. Because there's a lack of rules and enforcement and there's not a lot of structure at this point, that you're seeing a lot of the, I guess, quote unquote, bad actors and kind of the malicious people kind of seek out different individuals and make these huge promises. And probably, a good portion of them have no intention of ever seeing those through fulfilling those promises. They're going to dangle the carrot in front of you and say, hey, we've got $9 million in front of you, but hey, it's going to come in installments. You got to do this, you got to do that. And you got to go through all these different things that you may be not aware of, and they don't explain to you. You sign and don't read it. You don't sign anything. There's a lot of deals going on through DMs, promises going on through DMs that are not fulfilled. Things like that. So it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and like you said, right now it's truly unregulated. It's just money flying. It's a gold rush, for lack of better words, right now. It's like the Wild Wild West. And as Trey mentioned, the IRS hasn't really stepped in to say anything yet. You know what I'm saying? When that hammer comes down, it's going to be bad for a lot of people. Nothing is being regulated the way it should be when it comes to NIL. Like Trey said, you got kids doing all the work and miss this 1% or something, and they're just not getting paid. You got agents, these kids signing something and not even looking at it because they heard a figure. And the way it's written, now the agent is making just as much as the athlete, and the agent's doing literally nothing. I'm saying it's a double-edged sword. There's some really, really good, and it's a really, really good idea. It's a great idea because athletes deserve to be paid for their name, image, and likeness. But there are some dark corners to NIL, and I feel like Huckle's one of those places who don't have any of that because we're very upfront. You know what I'm saying? And like Trey said earlier, you know, you got athletes finishing stuff and not getting paid. You know, that money's not already in the bank. One of the biggest difference between Huckle, you know, you complete your deal, the money's already in the bank. You don't have to worry about agent B coming in and saying, well, you know, you finished and now you owe me 60%. I know we talked about this, and you know, I did it in your DM, but you signed this, and now it's gone. Huckle is one of those places and platforms that's shedding light on NIL, and I hope, giving a lot of people hope that it's not all bad.
Yeah, and before we move on to I'm going to end on a positive note. It's like a perfect example. I think Shaq talked about it on one of his the episodes of Hot Takes with the Hot Wing Challenge. How he didn't know he owed his agent 20% of his $2 million or $1.5 million signing or taxes. So he didn't read his contract fully. So when he went out and blew a little over $1 million in the first month or so, because it was the first time he ever came into money like that, obviously he should have been getting paid through college with what he was doing. He was then in the hole and had to ask people for their gifts back to sell stuff back. And it's just a perfect example of people not explaining what to expect when money comes to you from a contract. His agent didn't explain to put money aside for taxes or to put money aside to pay the agent, but they waited until it was too late. So always read your contract, maybe get some help, maybe get some legal advice before you sign a contract and understand what's coming.
And TJ, I want to expand on that real quick. And I can't speak for that agent, but in that situation, that's done intentionally. That's done intentionally, so you're in debt. And so you got to keep working to pay somebody off. See, that's intentional. They do that on purpose to keep you in debt. And now you're going to take anything that they throw to you because you got to make money to pay off to get out of the debt. And so they keep you in that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, let's try to end on a positive note because we did look at some of the dark sides. Let's talk about how can businesses benefit. We're going to talk about the Huckle platform, obviously, but how can the businesses benefit from athletes in the new gold rush around NIL?
So, like Trey said earlier, you know, this is not only for small businesses or medium businesses or big businesses too. Some businesses really don't know how to gain access to the athletes or to athletes they want to work with. You know, it's kids in small college towns, and you got mom and pop shops or maybe, you know, big shops and businesses that don't even know how to begin to work with athletes in that way. You know, they don't even know how to begin to reach out to that athlete. Huckle bridges that gap. You know what I'm saying? Huckle is a place that business or that athlete can go and say, I go meet with Jenny's Bake Shop, one of the biggest bake shops in the US. She's got there's a college right there, and there's a kid that, you know, everybody in the community doing great things, but she doesn't know how to link with that kid. But Jenny can benefit from that kid, and that kid can benefit from Jenny, but they don't know how to connect. Huckle is where you go. Huckle's that bridge. Huckle's that bridge where businesses can come to and have an understanding of how to find these athletes that they previously didn't know they had access to.
Yeah, and I'll say this also. The businesses, the companies and brands having this tangible access to the athletes, what it also is, it's a tangible way to actually see how far your marketing spend or ad spend will go, right? As opposed to saying search ads or social media ads where you're relying on an algorithm and hopefully your ad gets to where you say it's going to go and you can touch different territories and demographics that you want to touch. An athlete travels from city to city, town to town, all through their season. They're exposed to all the people all along the way that see them as an athlete, and they're recognizable. They have a platform during the game, pre-game, post-game. And so for the companies and brands, you get a really tangible way to really see the value in that spend and see the value in that marketing effort, and knowing that you got a tangible person that's going from this location to this location, this stadium, this arena, traveling airports or whatever else they're doing. And they're physically going to these different territories. So you know exactly how far your ad placement, your opportunity is going, right? So you don't have to rely solely on, like I said, the algorithm of the search ads and social media ads. You're getting a tangible marketing effort that you can see with your own eyes how the reach that opportunity and that advertisement is getting and where it's going.
Yeah, and I think it's going to take many busy small businesses and the larger businesses that get on board, and it's going to take them a lot farther than they expect. The opportunity, the reach that they're going to gain is more than they think they're going to get whenever they start realizing these niche sports or these smaller areas. They're going to realize that it's an untapped resource that we provide here at Huckle, and you work on with the athletes over at Huckle, Trey. So is there anything else you guys want to add before the end of the episode?
Ty, got anything?
I just want to say to all the people out there reading and listening and trying to figure things out, the platform is there and you can look through it. But if you have questions, you can find all of us on social media. Don't hesitate to reach out and ask those questions. And I know too, it was brought to my attention that there's some athletes out there that are multiple sport athletes, and they felt like they can only, put one sport or say they played one sport. That's also not true. 2 sports, 3 sports, whatever it is you got, and put it out there. These companies are looking. Just allow us to bridge that gap for you. Don't hesitate to reach out. There's no dumb questions. You don't have to be shy. For the most part, we're all athletes here. That's a brotherhood. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us.
I'll end with this. I'll say that, Huckle is and can be the vehicle to bypass the barriers to entry into the sports world from a company and brand perspective, where you can go work have direct access to various athletes in different locations. And then from an athlete standpoint, athletes, you're getting free and direct access to companies and brands to where that you can go and link up with and collaborate with for authentic marketing efforts, things that you're actually interested in that match your personality. And, when you can link up in an authentic way, it works out for both sides, because the athletes will be able to speak a lot more passionately and knowledgeably and more, in a positive emotional way about that product or brand or service. And then the company is going to get somebody who genuinely cares about that product or service, company or brand. And they're going to get a very, very empowering person to communicate on their behalf to really further and expand the reach of their message. And so it just works out great for everybody. And athletes get the benefit of the platform with no fees. Like Ty said, no fees charged, and there's no extra hands in the pockets. And so it just works out for everybody, just a really cost-effective, efficient, linear, easy-to-use way for everybody to get engaged in sports marketing, both athletes and also companies and brands, right? You don't have to be shut out and think that just because you can't afford to buy a spot on CBS or ESPN, or that you can't, reach out to an athlete and use them to further your brand or product. Sports is the one thing. Sports and entertainment are the 2 parallels that cross every single demographic and boundary of people. It doesn't matter where you live, what you're involved in. Sports and music ties everybody together. Sports is the one thing that people want to see live and in person. You don't want to record it. So all eyeballs are going to be on sports. So you're going to get live eyeballs, more eyeballs when going through sports marketing. And then you have to look at what's going to last. Sports. America is a sports loving country. The world loves sports. Sports is the one form of advertising that actually excelled and increased during the pandemic that we just had. All other forms of marketing went down. And when you look at the TV viewership and different things like that, people are cutting cords as far as that, sharing different accounts for streaming platforms and things like that. Live sports entertainment will always be here and will be, in my opinion, the best platform to utilize when you want to market a product or service or company or brand. Live sports is going to be the best way to do that. And we make it simple and easy and cost effective for you and give you lots of options and choices with Huckle. And the athletes get the same options and choices on vice versa to choose from lots of companies and brands to work with. And it just works perfectly. And it's authentic, and And there's nothing you're not going to be stiff for money. You're not going to be, for example, we're talking about this conversation. There was one platform that an athlete applied for and was initially accepted and approved or whatever to go through with that deal. Then once the athlete start doing the work and halfway down the line, the company says, oh, we can't utilize you because your analytics on social media aren't this and what we want them to be. So why did you accept the athlete in the first place? Right. And so that's just a bad business model. It's a bad experience. And so that won't happen on Huckle. Like I said, we make sure everything's lined up. Everybody's going to get paid and enjoy have a good, positive experience. And you're going to see value from a company or brand, and you're going to have a good experience from an athlete.
Very well said, for sure. So if you guys have any questions, like Ty and Trey said, check us out online. All the info will be in the show notes, huckleup.com, Instagram and TikTok @Huckle_up. I will have Ty's and Trey's Instagram for 3 National Bio Nutrition and for Ty in the show notes. There will also be a link to Huckle's YouTube video on NIL and their page as well in the show notes. Wanted to say thank you guys both for coming on tonight. I know the listeners will get a lot of value from this. Thanks.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.